Hi guys, here's my attempt at doing some online coaching or helping during our pandemic until we can get back together. I'm just going to try to briefly go through like what my goal was for you to work on in class, for you to kind of get an idea of how to do the exercises. And then I thought if you're able to submit some videos of a few exercises that I would kind of critique you in class, I can give you some feedback on maybe how you can improve upon your technique. So usually what I talk about week 3 in regards to attention, for this is weird just talking to my house and not having a group, but anyway, in regards to attention, kind of a good habit I get into with my own dogs. I still do it even with my seasoned dogs like Josie. I definitely do it a lot with Riggs. Is encourage them to, after they kind of look around their environment and assess like a class of dogs or kids at the park or new people into the house or whatever, encourage them to kind of to connect and settle with you. So usually in a class setting, what I encourage people to do is let their dogs come in and kind of look around and survey the class dogs and see their friends, be excited, and then as handlers, go to your spots around the room and encourage your dogs through that be still technique. I talk a lot about that during like at various kind of points in helping you with different things, but definitely with focus and attention. So I usually, will kind of hold my dog, watch for some calming signals, the lip licking or a yawn, but you probably aren't getting the yawn yet, but just even the lip lick. And then encourage your dog to do something like focus with attention on you. So what you do by kind of creating that habit when you go into a new environment is you allow your dog to be a dog and kind of look around and see what there is, assess their environment and get comfortable, and then encourage them to come in, connect with you. And my dogs are asleep. We hiked earlier today. Come here, Riggs. Riggs, come here, buddy. Yeah, just kind of encourage them to connect with you. Obviously, they're usually a little bit more excited, and once they do, just kind of put them to work. Either just doing a sit and watching you. Really, any attention that they gave you would be worthwhile. Rewarding. So I'm just gonna go back to sleep now. Anyhow, so yeah, I even do that, like I say, with seasoned dogs like Josie. Even at trials, or if I'm going in to do a demo, back in the days when we did some demos, I would usually kind of hold her collar and keep her close to me, allow her to kind of assess her environment without getting overstimulated, encourage her to connect with me, and then put her to work. And the more you do that with your dog in new environments, it does help them to learn that that's their habit, that instead of overreacting and getting always overexcited or overstimulated, that they connect with their person, take direction, and kind of follow from there. So again, it's going to be ebb and flow. There'll be certain environments that your pup or dog is over the top for. Certainly, I definitely have those environments still with my puppy Riggs. He's much better than when we first started out, but there's still certain things that he just won't kind of give me that common cue or sort of settle into, that I have to just like take it as a loss for now and kind of carry on. So, but yeah, that's how I encourage you to kind of look at your attention going forward, which is again eye contact from your dogs. Yeah, so the last time we were together, which was week 2, we didn't have opportunity to do a sit stay in class for me to kind of watch you. So I'm hoping if you guys could submit some videos of where you're doing or how you're doing with your sit stays, and I can give you a little feedback on that. I'll do a demo with Riggs here because he still does need to work on his stays. And just I can't stress enough when it comes to teaching consistency in stays. Oh, we're going to have 2 dogs here. Excuse me, I'm going to put Joe's in her crate. And then I'm going to just work him. Here, Joe. Come here. Come here, bud. Joe's. Come here. Riggs, come. Riggs, come. Here, Joe. You go in. Wait, you're good. She'll be sad about that. She may cry a bit, but he'll be a better demo. So yeah, I can't say enough how I feel it's important that you really get a good solid duration with your stay, which means that your dog understands that they hold the position until you release them. So if they, I call it a reliable stay, if they stay until they're told not to anymore. But if you still find that your dog is breaking their stay a bit, they're moving before you've released them, then in my opinion, they're not ready for a lot more distance. You still need to work that consistency at a closer distance, but work for a solid duration. I'd say 30 to 45 seconds is a kind of a good solid start if your dog will hold that amount of time without moving, and then you can kind of move forward duration wise. Again, I stress that I don't tend to do too much distance too soon. I really like dogs to have that understanding of holding position for a good amount of time before you start adding too much distance. Come here, buddy. All right, good job. So yeah, I like to start my dogs in heel position, which I'm gonna actually cover as well today. Sit, good boy. So I tend to have them beside me and say stay. Again, you may be working on leash if your dog is moving a lot or if you're outside. But yeah, I wouldn't go much more than a leash distance away from your dog. And as long as they hold position, you certainly can step in. Yes. Reward them. Stay. Repeat your stay after each food reward. And the way we increase our distance or our duration and our time is increasing the time in between our rewards. So to keep them there longer, we shouldn't just continue to feed them. Yes. Here's a cat playing off in the distance. Stay. To keep them there longer doesn't mean we just keep plugging more treats into them to keep them there. But the idea is that you want to have boy. Sit. Boy. Stay. The idea is that you want to have ideally fewer treats over a longer time to keep your dog in position. It's a payoff for performance rather than I'm paying you to stay there sort of thing. My puppy is very tired. Come here, puppy. Come on, buddy. Stay. I should pay attention to him a bit more. Right now. Good boy. Good. Stay. Sometimes I will offer praise, and I tend to end my praise with a reminder of the stay cue. So that's pretty good for him. I don't know about how long that was, but okay, bud. Okay, good job. So, and I always like to move them right out of position when they're done their stay with a verbal okay, and I tend to also do a physical kind of movement as well. It's just a part of what I tend to do with them. So the next thing I'll talk about, so if you want to send me in a video of your sit stay, I can give you a little feedback on how you can kind of improve upon it or work forward. So the next thing I want to talk about is loose leash walking, foundation for loose leash walking and teaching dogs not to pull on a leash. It's probably the hardest thing, aside from that and jumping, and again, depending on the dog, but loose leash walking tends to be one of the hardest things that you have to work on with your dogs, your young dogs, and really it's something that requires attention and maybe some maintenance forever, really. Like if you have a certain criteria and then, as your dog gets older, you get a little slack with your criteria and you let them pull a little, well then it can become, again, a bit more of a problem or a situational. They get used to certain people they can pull towards or environments they can pull in versus when they can't. But what I'm going to start with is what I think is probably a really big game changer and a foundation for teaching dogs to walk on leash, and it just has to do with them following pressure. And similar to that be still exercise that we taught last week, several weeks ago, but the last time we were together. It's a teaching dogs to follow pressure and think their way out of a situation rather than just put muscle into it and kind of fight it. So two big reasons why dogs tend to pull. Number one is opposition reflex. So they have a natural reflex that tells them when they feel a pressure against them, they should resist it or they should oppose it. So they push against that. What happens when, and that's a natural, it's hardwired in their brain, it's a natural response to dogs. Example I use often is if you're sitting by your dog on the couch or they get up next to you and you try to move them away, you often feel them like push right into you and kind of resist that. That's natural opposition reflex in dogs. So what happens when dogs pull is that if this is their collar and this is their neck in their collar, once there becomes tension on the leash and a pressure towards the handler, opposition reflex tells your dog to push or pull into that pressure. And as long as we as handlers, which we often do with our young puppies, because it's not a problem until they get bigger and stronger, it becomes a bigger problem. But when we follow them, opposition reflex is engaged. Once the leash becomes tight, we begin to follow them and they learn very quickly that pulling works. So keep that in mind as you move forward in your training with dogs on how to walk. I mean, even with Riggs, he's 8.5, almost 9 months old. I've had him since he was 10 weeks old. He's still not great to walk on a leash by any stretch of the imagination, but he's way better than he was when I got him. And this is where he began. And he's, you know, again, he's so much better than he was. And I always say Border Collies are the worst dogs to ever walk on a leash because they really do like to move out and do their own thing. Josie, for instance, or the Aussies, the foundation I'm about to share with you, that's the only difference in Josie's foundation and now in this dog's foundation than any of my other dogs past. And Josie is by far the best dog I've ever had to walk on a leash. Other techniques that I've used for her have been the same as dogs in my past, but she is by far the best. And I think that this technique has made a whole lot of difference. So what this involves is just allowing your dog to pull, which is going to happen easily. And instead of talking to them or pulling them back or trying to direct them, wait for them to release that pressure or continue to apply a constant pressure to them. And when they give in, when they kind of release, mark that, okay? So use your yes word or your clicker. Mark that moment that they release pressure and reward them. That's the very first step. We do need to progress over the next few weeks on a criteria with that, but don't expect too much too soon. Really, and try to resist prompting your dog. So we want them to learn to make a different decision when their leash becomes tight and they feel that pressure. So nature tells them to pull into that, okay, to resist that pressure, and we follow them, pulling is created. So it's going to take some time for them to think about, you know, how to offset that or what to do differently. But when they do, and we start rewarding them for it, and they learn that they can move forward, get food rewards, all kinds of wonderful things happen when they release pressure, things start to happen. So instead of us always, again, prompting them and luring them, but allowing them to think it through, they actually will learn it a little bit better and have a better understanding of what it is they're actually being paid for. Not because they were told or directed by their handler to do something and then got paid, but they made a decision and they thought something through. So yeah, so I'll show you a little bit with Riggs. Come here, bud. Come here. And again, he's very tired from a 2-hour hike, and yeah, he's not going to do a ton of pulling around the house anyways, but he does. I tend to actually walk him on a head collar, and I talk a little bit about about this more later on in the class, but I have him on a head halter. So it's called a halty or a gentle leader. Goes over his nose and up around his head because he was such a handful to walk and can be such a handful to walk when he's not this super tired. Sundays are good days for him. He has quite a bit of activity. But anyhow, yeah, I know, buddy. Come here, bud. Come here. Sit up. Get up. Come on. There's a boy. The idea is that if your dog was pulling, and there was pressure, again, on the leash going forward, here, buddy. If you apply pressure to them and wait for them to release it, mine is persistent and tired, so he's just going to lay down. All right, I'm going to try with my other dog. Come here. Come here, bud. Come on. Come on. Josie's more motivated by food, so she'll stay more awake for this. Come here, bud. So yeah, so the idea is that if your dog is pulling forward and putting pressure on the leash this way, and if you just continue to maintain a tightness, that taut feeling, and yeah, see how Josie just kind of backs up, she follows that pressure very easily. If they were to, this is a really hard one to teach with in this environment. Obviously I would use a class dog. Wait, Joes. But yeah, if they were pulling towards something, good girl, Joes, yes. So you see how Josie very quickly, once she feels that pressure on her leash, she backs right up. She kind of moves right into it. When you're initially teaching that, obviously it doesn't happen so quickly. Try to resist the urge to yank your dog back, or call them or smooch at them to encourage them back. Now, having said that, your everyday walking, it's going to be, you have to understand that it's going to take time to teach this. So what I suggest you do with your young dogs is either use some sort of device to try to, like a head collar or harness that discourages walking, or something to help you through your walks that you have to get done, or understand that pulling is going to happen a bit on these walks that you have to get done, or take the time on your walks and just work the walking skills, work on increasing pressure, changing direction a lot. I think the handouts I gave you or put on the little group site, I give you my kind of loose leash walking tips. Change direction a lot. I do a lot of, here Joe's, whoa. I do a lot with walking of rewarding, it's kind of right by my foot. I kind of, as I'm out walking, I'll toss a reward just on the ground by my foot or behind, never ahead. I'll feed the dog to her mouth as well. And not constantly, but in working this leash pressure business. So again, I have treats on the floor here for Joe's. Again, if the dog pulls, go get it, Joe's, go get it. If they pull and put pressure, you wait for the release of the pressure and you can mark and reward that. She thinks this is wonderful. She always loves this demo in class too. She thinks it's great. But yeah, again, it's really hard, yes, for me to teach this in my kitchen dining room area with my dog that knows already and understands how to follow pressure. But yeah, just even, wait, Joe's. Just even working with your young dogs on a leash in the house, and not moving forward with them when they put pressure on their leash, and just increasing pressure, yes, and rewarding them when they follow it and when they move with your pressure rather than resisting it. So you can see how with Josie, who's very well versed at this, but you can see how I can very easily move her and manipulate her with no resistance on her part. And it just gives you a really great control walking the dog if they understand to follow pressure rather than pull into it or push into it, and always resist what you're trying to do. So it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so I wouldn't. You can also send videos into that too if you want to. You can send me videos of whatever you want, and I can try to give you some help during this time. But yeah, the following pressure is a really important part of a solid foundation teaching your dog how to walk well on a leash. Remember, it's natural. They come to us with every instinct that tells them how to pull, not how to walk nicely on a leash. So this is a lot of work for dogs. Really keep that in mind. It's a tough one. Try not to get frustrated. And I know it's hard. Like, again, those of you who trained with me earlier know that, I definitely struggled with my Riggs puppy. And now I'm reaping the benefits of having put a lot of work into him. And just like, nose to the ground and like had to get it done because this is my life now. I've got this young dog, so he really has come along nicely. And for times when I I'm just not, if I have the two dogs or if it's a certain situation where I'm not going to really pay attention to his walking, I throw his head collar on him, and that helps prevent more pulling when I'm not prepared to manage it and kind of work it and train it, but it allows me to get through those periods where I need to walk him on leash for short periods. So yeah, so that's kind of loose leash walking, the best I can do. What that kind of leads into, or the next exercise I usually talk about, is heel position, which kind of goes hand in hand with your loose leash walking, which Josie is more or less, here Josie, in heel position now, which is, I'll move back here a bit. Here goes heel. So heel position is really just kind of having your dog sit beside you in a controlled position. And that practicing having them come to that position as well as teaching them to follow pressure on their leash, really that is what ties your walking all together. It ties the attention, it ties your dog knowing that you like them to work close to you, and working that pressure on the leash. That's what will give you some nice walking. So teaching heel position, I tend to have the dog in front to start, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a big exaggerated kind of turn to the back here. They do like a little half circle, a little half turn, just to kind of come around to your side. This is a tough one. Like, I hope this video is helpful, but this is one that people, in class I find really struggle with. It just takes a bit of mechanics, and your dog has quite a bit to think about. You as a handler have lots to think about: leash, treats, moving your body, getting your dog into position. So be patient and definitely send me videos of this one, because I'll do my best to kind of walk you through how to try to do that better. But basically, you want to just sort of bring your dog in a little half circle, right? You want to send them out, good girl, Joes. Give them enough room so that when they can turn their body around into you, usually the first few repetitions, if they struggle a bit, I don't worry about getting them into the sit. I don't micromanage that too much or make that finishing touch happen. Okay, Joes. I will just lure them into a position at my side, just in a stand. Yes, like so, and then I'll feed to create that repetition. I'll just kind of pivot right in front, and I'll bring them around again. Yes, Josie got her sitter in there a bit too quick, but that's fine. She knows how to do that. But what I'm saying with your dogs, the first few times, don't struggle to get them to sit. That is the end kind of finished goal, but getting them to your side is the first part and the most important part of the whole exercise. So at the end of the day, when we're beginning this exercise, I don't care about the sit. I care most that they just know to come to your side. Then I pivot in front and I set them up again. Okay. The reason I do that big step back, the reason I do that big step back is that the more information for the dog, the better in the early learning stages, and we can kind of fade some of that later on. But yeah, I mean, Josie will follow basically any kind of movement I give her at my side. And you know, it all came from beginning in a very exaggerated follow my body kind of way. And heel work and walking, yes, does involve, okay, Joes, your dog paying attention to where you're going and what you're doing and being a bit in tune with your steps and your body movement and your rotation. But if you turn away, they need to like catch up. If you turn into them, they need to slow down. So this is kind of the beginning of teaching them that it's worthwhile to kind of follow what you're directing there. Yeah, touch the side of your body. So that's your heel position, goes hand in hand with your loose leash walking and following the pressure of the leash. Yeah, so the next thing I usually cover is jumping. So a little bit about why dogs jump. I won't be able to really demo with this one because I don't have a dog to jump on me. Oh, girl, girl. But, okay, all done. Good girl, all done. So a big part of the reason that dogs jump on people is because natural greeting behaviors for dogs involve face-to-face, okay? So that's, again, part of their hardwired nature. Their normal greeting skill is to sniff face to face, and then they usually go bum to bum or bum to face and do their little circling and then off to play or what have you. And in the beginning, when we get our puppies, often we snuggle them a lot. We have them up around our face. We allow them like on our chest, kiss our face, all that stuff, licky lick. So they get used to that. And then as they get a little bit bigger and older, that is no longer appropriate. So we kind of change the rules and don't really know, even though we've already kind of set the groundwork for dogs, that it might be okay. So it changes the conversation for them, and sometimes they can get confused. So big reason why I kind of explain that to people is because I want you to give your dogs a break, all right? This is hard for them. Just like walking on a leash is really hard for them. Instinct tells them they should sniff our faces, and that's nature for them. And we initially maybe told them that was okay, and now we don't really want them to do that. So the same lady that taught me all the pressure exercises with the calming and the loose leash walking, this is also another one of her tricks. And when I learned it, I thought like, well, yeah, of course that works. Like, why have I not realized this? But it involves putting pressure towards your dog rather than turning and walking away from them. So, and there is a turn and walk away technique, which I will talk about in a couple of weeks. But pressuring into your dog when they are actively jumping on you or thinking about jumping on you. So I do this with my puppies right out of the gate. I don't even give them an opportunity to jump on me. I just know that they're going to. Typically when I bring, and I would have said this to you guys probably the first week we were together, but typically when I bring a dog out onto the floor for a demo, a class dog, I expect that dog is going to jump on me. They're here to probably help learn how not to do that. So I expect that just about every dog that I take is going to jump on me. So I'm prepared to pressure. Josie's not going to jump on me, but see how she naturally moves away from me when I walk into her. And that is what keeps her from putting her feet on people, is she knows that she needs to kind of pressure away or stay away when people walk in and put pressure on her. So ideal timing for this is before the dog jumps, but this exercise works really well in the moment, okay? You come home, your dog's excited, they come barreling towards you, they put their feet on you. Instead of like no hands pushing them off, that encourages play. Turning away encourages them maybe to continue to do that, to try to get your attention. But pressuring into them actually gives them a little bit more information about what you're looking to avoid. Get out of my space. That's what that's telling them. Get out of my space, right? So that's how dogs talk to each other. If one dog is trying to protect a person, another dog, a resource, or just kind of guide, dog X to another direction, they're going to pressure them until that dog gives in. So they really read that stuff very well. So again, I usually do this with a demo with a jumping dog, but as a dog pressures and puts their feet on you, walk into them. And when they take their feet off, so when they decide that you're being rude and they aren't going to continue to pressure you, when they take their feet off, just step back. Step back and offer some praise. There's no food involved in this at all. The release of pressure is the reward. So I don't offer any treats. This is a strictly pressure release exercise. So again, here Joe's. Here. Stay. So again, if they jump on you, they put their feet on you, pressure into them, walk into them. I don't tend to say anything. I don't tend to say off or down. I don't want this to be a command I have to give to my dog. I want this actually to be an understanding of how you greet people. When you greet people, they come into your space and you get out of theirs. And again, what I like about this exercise is that you can do it in the moment. People that come into your house, again, I tend to use a leash a bit to control my young dogs so that they don't clobber my guests, and learn to do that. Also, I do the calming, all right? That be still, okay, Jones, that be still exercise that I taught you guys, stand, that I taught you guys last week. I still do it to Josie when people come into my house. Now I have a puppy as well, so I usually will hold both of them. Josie immediately gives me a lick calming cue. I let her go. She goes to greet people a little bit less exuberant than she was before I did it. Okay, so had I not done that, she might have been like squealing with delight, being a little bit, over the top, and instead she just greets them a little bit more low key. My puppy, I just want him to learn that. I want him to learn. He doesn't tend to be too terribly over the top, but I want him to learn to just kind of be thoughtful and calm when people come in. So I hold him as well a little longer than Josie, because he's usually a lot more excited. So yeah, that's with the jumping. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought with that. I just thought about Riggs for a minute, and yeah. So yeah, use that when guests are coming in. That's what it was. When guests are coming in, you can't expect them to necessarily do that release part with the pressuring on jumping. So again, I usually hold my dog initially to calm them. Then I instruct my guests, I'm going to let my puppy go. Can you please just continue to walk towards him? Okay, so I want Riggs to learn that he needs to be mindful when approaching people, even if he's excited, that they're going to keep walking into his space and he needs to kind of like adjust to them rather than jump all over them. So it works very well. So yeah, people that are coming into your home, I usually just instruct them to kind of continue to walk through my puppy. I may do my best to kind of keep them on a leash or do the calming, be still, but encourage guests to like walk on through. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I really like it. I do have like the turn away